Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Guile here, and welcome back to another Supreme Commander epic. That's right, it's that time of the month when replays last just a little bit longer than usual. So you know what to do, guys. If you haven't got time to watch it now, do by all means dump it in your watch later playlist and catch it when you have a chance. And incidentally, while you're down there, love, smash the old like and subscribe button, will you? It helps me out immensely. And drop a comment in the comment section below. If you don't know what to talk about, tell me about your day, because I'm dying to know. Right, what have we got today in terms of programming? It's going to be a 2v2 mid-pro level affair, and the best news is there's no news, so we can go straight to the action, which is going to go down on Winding River, which I think is a new one for Guilecast. I'm ready, you guys are ready, and the players are sure as hell ready, so let's go on over to the game zone and see how they're going to get on. Ching! Ka-ching! Alrighty, it's definitely a new map as far as we're concerned. I don't ever remember casting one on this map. It seems all very fresh and exciting. We will introduce our players and then have a little shifty about the map and see what it's got in store for us today. This, of course, will be Team 1. This will be Team 2. Going first for Team 1 right at the top over here, it's Kodarak. When I first read this, it reminded me of Coronac, which, of course, is a Celtic funeral dirge. Didn't know about that at all until I looked it up. But, of course, it has absolutely nothing to do with this chap, because that's not his name. So I don't really know why I went into it. But here he is. He's going Cybrin in Burgundy Red, opening first land, second air, and being rude as well when it looks at things in local chat. And his teammate over here, it's Taffy, and he is going UEF, going Ferrari Red, opening first land. I had to think about that for a second. Team 2 now down here at the bottom left, right at the edge of the map. We've got Kelly also going Cybrin and going first land in electric blue. Have we got a read on the second factory? Not as yet, keeping us guessing. His teammate today up here, we just cast him the other day. I'm not sure whether it was on this channel or on the premium channel. And incidentally, guys, if you want to get access to the premium channel, it is a mere $1 a month. Link in the description below this video, so do by all means check that out. He's doing some rearranging with his positioning here, but he's essentially going first land, second and third air by the looks of things. He's going UEF in baby blue. So both teams have a Cybrin, both teams have a UEF. Sort of a mirror matchup, I suppose. And what is the game quality situation? Game balance is 100%. In fact, in the averages between the two teams, there's only a 5-point difference between the average of the averages, if that makes any sense. I'm sure it does. Now, let's have a look at the map. That's the reclaim situation. Ostensibly nothing in either of the base corners, a few tents here and there. There's a decent amount in the top left and bottom right hand corners, and then a little smattering up and down these two riverbank phalluses that we've got going up and down here, but nothing to write home about. In fact, generally in terms of reclaim, not a lot to write home about at all. Only 2,715 mass on the whole map in terms of reclaim. That's really nothing too excited at all. But we do have decent clumps of mexes around here. We have some up and down these riverbanks. I'm not going to continuously say the word phallus, so don't worry. But up and down here. But what I actually like in terms of map design is the creativity that's gone into these Mr. Whippy mountains up and down the river here. Isn't that wonderful? That tickles me in places that no map should tickle me. I can almost imagine the way that that was formed. Perhaps is it low silicon content rock, which makes it less viscous? I don't know, but you can imagine this primordial planet here when it was all lava and whatnot, having it whipped up by high cyclonic winds into these fantastic formations. I don't know. That's just what it looks like to me. But anyway, definitely a lovely little touch, a human touch that you only get on a non-AI generated map. So it's lovely to have some of these every now and again. What's going on in terms of the river, though? That is actually a long old road for boats to travel. Why? Because it's a 20 by 20 map, so don't expect vessels that are popping up over here to be running through this river in any kind of rate of knots at all. It's going to take a long time for a vessel to get from one base to the other. We had a couple of mech marines from Taffy traverse down here around the eastern approach at the edge of the map down here, and now making their way to the bottom right hand corner. Bernard and Terence, there they go, off to different locations, one going all the way to the sensitive tip right at the end there, the other one just loitering down here at the base. That is the way of things. Ooh, There's an aggressive little location down here from Taffy. One land factory queued up. And what's going on over here? We've got 2 inbound transports, one from Konarak and one from Amygdala. That's actually an aggressive little drop there from Amygdala, who's got 4 units of build capacity on board, 4 engineers. Looks like he's making a play over here, although he's only dropping some of those 4 off. In fact, he's keeping 2 on board. He gets 2 onto the ground, and he will be setting up shop in this little ditch over here, and that's going to be a protracted little engagement potentially as these 2 factions war over position in the top left-hand corner, or not. No, he is going to get landfall there. I thought for a minute, because that interceptor from Amygdala locked onto that skyhook. It's now going to chase him away, but he's already dropped off his payload. Those 3 engineers on the ground, they're going to get to work on 4 land factories. Needs to get on it, though. He's already potentially behind the curve, as engineers over here have started work for Amygdala. Excuse me. Crossing the water now is Kelly with the commander, and he's also crossed over with 1 engineer. Needs to be very, very careful indeed. Bernard just lying in wait, or standing in wait, waiting for an engineer to befoul his path. You would think he would know all about that engineer's presence, but of course that's not the way Supreme Commander works. Hasn't got decent intel or anything like that, although he did just fly past with a couple of inties there, and that's what's allowed him to spot it. Moves straight in with Bernard, who tickles that engineer to death and prevents him from getting that Magno radar station up and running. He's now going to move on to the mass extractor, which he'd already actually started an upgrade for, but unlikely he's going to finish that. Kelly has crossed over, started work on a land factory with his commander. What's going on up at the top left? Interceptors tussle for supremacy in the top left-hand corner between Konarak and Amygdala over the top of Konarak's base. Konarak actually dispatching a T1 bomber to engage this forward base over here. Can he get a bomb off? Looks like he might have done. It looks like it's overshooting because of the relief of the land. Yes, it does. I'm not sure even what the target was there. But coming off the top of the cliff edge over here, I thought that was a problem that had been fixed a long time ago, but it seemed like it sailed far too high and he couldn't get the target. Here's a second attempt. Again, you can see the bomber actually falling, and again he misses any... What's he even going for? Is he going for the radar? Answers in the comment section below. And if there are any devs watching, I thought that whole issue with high terrain causing problems for bombers had long since been solved. I'd love to hear your questions, or rather your answers on it, because that is still something that needs to be fixed by the looks of things, or maybe it's a feature. Just don't try and bomb anything coming off higher than average terrain, otherwise you're likely to be disappointed. Inbound frigate for Kelly, and he hasn't actually got to go all the way to the main bases to get some action, because helpfully Taffy crossed over and set up shop at the edge of the riverbank here on the Meander. Already has 2 naval yards in play, has spat out 1 Tiger Shark. But yeah, that's been in play already for some time, that frigate. You can see the second one inbound, and that's how long it has taken him to traverse that position. So although water power navy may prove to be crucial in this map, in this game, it could be a long protracted affair. Skyhook inbound with 5 units of build capacity from Konarak. Where's he going with that? Going to drop some off on the underside, the bottom bank of this stretch over here, and he's also brought his commander forward to pick up a mechs right at the bottom of that. More harassment going on at the top left hand screen as Amygdala seems to want to desperately hamper Konarak as best he can to make a play for conquering this top left hand corner. This is really, these 2 theatres are where most of this is going to go down. Taffy seems to have completely ignored any attempt to make a play for this bottom right hand corner down here. Instead, he wants to pressure this position, presumably thinking that if he can pile up enough weaponry and enough naval presence down here, he might be able to cut all of this off by extension. It's a little bit of a risk, but it's going to be hard nonetheless for Amygdala to win out in this top left hand corner, although he is giving it a darn good going right now. A good attempt. 2 land factories operational. A nice little group of strikers affording base defense. Did lose a mech there and a radar station, but you won't be too worried about that. Anything brewing over here for Konorak to try and take that out? Well, nothing immediately beyond this huge horde of Mantis and Medusa. Can they actually get round here? That is quite the cliff edge. I don't think that's... oh, maybe it is. Maybe that's passable. So he might be able to get up there with this group of units. I was thinking that he would have had to have traversed this position down here. Maybe he does. Let's see if we can get a read on that. That's simply an attack move down here. So he's getting these units to move in. Is he aware of everything that's arrayed in this ditch down here? Doesn't look like it had been scouted. So he's fallen across these units, discovered them for the first time, and he's just going to have to knock them out on his way down. Little bit of naval action in the river. Still nothing really to write home about. What have we got brewing further back at base? No major investment going on from Kelly. Amygdala still yet to set up any kind of naval presence. Oh no, excuse me, he has got a couple of naval yards right up here. Oh, so he's basically done exactly the same sort of thing as Taffy, and I'm wondering if this is very much part of the meta on this map. Seems entirely too coincidental otherwise for these two to behave in such a manner, but of course there's a slight difference with Amygdala going for this top left hand corner and Taffy basically ignoring it. But it seems like this is his play. He already has 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 land factories now pumping out. I'm just completely miscounted. That's 7. That's not 8 at all. 7 land factories pumping out units. Few mech marines in there. Some strikers. And like I say, if he can build up a big enough presence and shut Kelly out down here, he can win this bottom right hand corner by default. We'll have to see if it works out for him though. And in fact, he's not actually pressuring this bottom right hand corner for the time being. He'll probably be well aware of Kelly's comm presence down here anyway, and he'd be unlikely to win that exchange. So instead he's redirecting these mech marines and these strikers over to the west. But there are engineers who have thrown down in record time 3 units of autogun, 3 emplacements, and they're just cutting those tanks apart as they stroll into range. Taffy recognizes the danger, but a little bit too late. Saves only 1 striker, and even he is going to run into a pursuing horde of Mantis for his trouble. No more letters home to mother for him. That will be the end of his little journey. Now, this is interesting. That merry band of tanks, Mantis and Medusas we saw a moment ago from Konorak push down past here and annihilate the UEF forces of Amygdala, didn't turn around and move up towards this forward base. Instead, they are moving south and looking to pressure territory closer to Amygdala's main base. Going to bag themselves some mechs on the way for their trouble. A couple of engineers down here are also going to get gizzarded, going about their happy business on reclaim detail. It's like getting killed on the toilet. Completely unnecessary and rather a waste. There we go. 2 remain. For now, that Mex is going to go down as well on their way past. And a Janus affording base security over here with his napalm strikes. So we've got a transition to T2 Air for Amygdala. Where is that? T2 Air HQ. There it is. And now he's switched over to gunship production, pumping out some Stingers. His commander over on that middle riverbank over here. But he has lost those 2 forward naval yards. So that's some nice work from Taffy. And of course, if he can hold this position, that threatens this little group of structures over here. A land factory 4 T1 mexes. One of them, actually a fifth, has already been destroyed. What's happening in the top left-hand corner? Well, Amygdala still has a solid presence there. 5 land factories and an air factory. And a decent amount of ground forces in the area. Some 18 strikers and some 5 Lobos. But he's starting to find himself a little bit surrounded, although Konorak doesn't have a huge amount of extra firepower kicking around. But look at this, a nice bit of gunship pressure in from Taffy, who has, let's have a look here, looks like he's got 3 gunships in this little squadron. I'm not sure if he had more than that, if any have been shot down. But he has a very solid interceptor escort detail with him. Those gunships desperately need to focus on the banger. Oh, another one bites the dust. Down goes the banger, but another banger shows up. Kelly's pulled his comm into the water for safekeeping. Solid decision that, but while he's out of the picture, a large ground attack brewing from Taffy, who this time is sending ground forces in towards the bottom right hand corner as opposed to moving them west onto the shaft, if you will. But Rhinos in play. We have T2 base security on the ground. 53 Rhinos queued up in that land factory, and also that's not the headquarters, so even if that goes down, that's not going to shut Kelly out of T2 tech. Not sure where the HQ is that it? No, that's just another T2, regular T2 land factory. The main HQ is over here, and it's already up to Tech 3 and churning out T3 engineers. You can see we've got 3 out over here, a 4th's just come out working on an iron reactor. So Kelly advancing nicely. We haven't actually stopped to take note of what's happening on the eco side of things. Team 2 has built up a solid lead in terms of total mass accrued. 142k versus 130k. That's pretty significant, and a 20 mass point differential between the generated eco in favor of Team 2. So Team 2 definitely faring better in terms of early macroeconomic factors. They are also making some progress up on the eastern approaches. A nice little group of Rhinos pushing up towards Taffy's main base over here. Taffy has now expanded down here to the bottom right. Would have liked it, I'm sure, if that attack had borne more fruit over here, but it wasn't to be. And now we've also got a T3 land factory in play, so unlikely that Taffy is going to dislodge that base anytime soon. And in fact, he's currently withdrawing his commander from that forward base over here. Half the factories aren't producing anything. The other half are still pumping out strikers, but I think he knows that that might be a busted flush right there. Rhinos not moving straight up the edge of the map into the backfield. Remember, the main bases, you would expect them instinctively to be up on the corner, but they're not. They're on the riverbank down here. So those Rhinos are going for gold, so to speak, but they're completely devoid of any flak coverage accompanying them. And as such, a decent number of stingers show up from Taffy to put an end to that threat. One at a time, those are going to be picked apart. No problems there. That little group of T1 vessels we saw take down those forward naval yards of Amygdala from Taffy are now under torpedo bomber attack. Just 1 or 2 of those, but that's all you really need when you're talking about T1 vessels. Should get the job done reasonably quickly, or at least make Taffy turn around and run. Konorak actually must have lost a couple of factories, or is he? No, so he's rebuilding T2 factories from scratch over here. Presumably reclaimed the old ones. There's his base land headquarters. That is also back at base. Not currently at T3 though. Still working off T2 for now. No shame in it. We're still sub 20 minutes. But look at this. Inbound Bernie Sanders stomping their way in true Democrat blue fashion over towards these newly constructed land factories of Taffy, and quite frankly, they don't stand a chance. Engineers evacing as best they can. They know what's coming. Uh-oh, gunships caught out over here. Uncharacteristic mistake from Taffy. Where's his air force? It is inbound, but the damage will be mostly done by then. He's actually quite lucky to get 4 of those gunships out of that, but he did lose a few. Interceptor's now going to tangle. That's not a great engage as far as Kelly's concerned, but his fighters now are at least engaging, which is important. Actually, I think he's going to hold the field. So, oh, and he definitely will with air superiority fighters showing up. Tech 3 fighters going to turn up and rip those antiquated T1 fighters to shreds. Very nicely done indeed. Big old fight going down up at the top left-hand corner. An eclectic mix of T1 and T2 units inbound from Amygdala. Going up what was a more predominantly T2 army, I think, from Konarak, but it vaporized so fast I hardly got a chance to properly tell. There was just so much more of a numerical advantage there for Amygdala. He didn't stand much of a chance, and now it's almost a clear run into the base, although we do have some rhinos building up here now. By the time he gets down here, so there is a route down there, which makes me think that there is a route up there as well, just around these little whippy sections. It looks, when you're zoomed out, like it's all one continuous ridge, but not on your Nelly. It is a bit of a bottleneck, that's for certain. And that hasn't helped him in the slightest, as they all come in single file and get bunched up in this little pass over here. That defensive position paying dividends for Konarak. But the Bernies down here have done their job. Land factories out of commission for Taffy. One of them being dispatched presumably to finish off these NGs and these 2 mass extractors at the bottom of the screen. But look at this. More Bernies amassing all the time, along with quite a hefty bunch of rhinos as well. What is going to be the next big play? We've now crossed the 22-minute mark. Team 2 still with a comfortable lead in generated eco, but in terms, in total eco, but in terms of generated eco, well, actually it is fluctuating quite a bit. It went down to a 5 mass differential there for a moment, but that was just a moment, and in fact it almost looks like it's widening here and there, but it does again close. Probably at that stage where players are power locking themselves, getting power grids up and running. T3 reactors coming online, temporarily zapping all of their power before reinstating it tenfold. Look at this little exchange here. I'm liking the use of formations. Definitely helps out when you face your enemy with a flat edge, flat formation edge, giving more of your forces the chance to fire at once. And that little momentary flicker, glimmer of hope for Amygdala blows out once more, and it seems to be more of an even looking fight once again, although gunships could do some damage. Any defending Air Force? Well, the ASFs for Kelly are defending down here at the bottom right hand corner, shadowing the ASFs of Taffy, which are just a little bit further to the north. Now we have some Governors on the field. Governors, as you know, big fan here at Guilecast of those Seraphim and UEF cruisers. But that is not a huge amount of distance. So even if you park this over here, for instance, you're not going to have the range required to sneak missiles in and hit this little base over here. So you really do have to plow your way along the river. Amygdala given full control of all naval power. Kelly donating his Cybran destroyers and the odd frigate to his teammates' command. Let's just have a quick look on destroyer numbers. So Taffy also has some Cybran units in there. So he's got some 3 Salem destroyers. 1 Siren cruiser. So in terms of direct firepower, it actually looks like Amygdala's got a lot more of it. He's got 2 Salems. Well, not that much more. Not that much more. If I, it's like 4 destroyers to 3 in favor of Team 2 in that little pile. Of course, 1 direct fire cruiser or 2 kicking around on each team. But crucially, we've got a bulwark ship in here, shield boat, which is going to block a lot of the inbound fire from Taffy's fleet. So we could see Taffy moving up, but Taffy says to allies nuke. Has he spotted it? Or is he suggesting building it? We have got strategic missile defense going up in Kelly's base. Konorak says okay. Strategic missile defense suddenly started for Taffy. Again, apologies for the squeaky mouse wheel. Still haven't got that remedied yet. And more SMD on the way for Konorak as well. That makes me think that I've missed it, that it's somewhere on Team 2 and they've spied it. And there it is. Yeah, called it. So Kelly with the operational nuke launcher. And I'd say he's about coming up to about 20% done on that nuke. And now we do have a bulwark vessel for Taffy in amongst this unit mix, although the shield buckles fairly quickly after we zoom in on the conflict. Has Taffy, or Amygdala, sorry, has he lost his shield boat? No, there it is. But again, just another one depleted. Credit where credit's due, though. So the bottom right-hand corner completely under Team 2's control for Kelly. Top left-hand corner, Amygdala still fighting the good fight. Has not been ousted from a position which is not that easy to hold. He's committed pretty hard to it, which is always dangerous if you commit resources to something that then falls. Pillars leading a renewed charge, though. And Cerberus turrets under construction, but a little bit too late. A few engineers going to get popped in this, but the Rhinos might be able to shut this down. Oh, and some Viper mobile missile launchers moving up from behind. But look at this, a challenge at the main base over on the eastern approaches. Loyalists and Rhinos causing some headaches over here for Taffy. Taffy, though, has got his Titans out, patrolling this area. So quick. Handy personal shield gens, and they've bought enough time, I think, for some of these NGs over here to get some defenses in place. They can cover the approach into the main base. Needs to continually add attack commands, though, to maintain this defense. A couple of Stingers move in to attack from the sky as well. How are air numbers looking? Where is the Air Force? There it is. So it looks like Konorak's handling air power for team. Oh no, there's a big old contingent there. I thought for a minute they'd all been transferred over. I'm intrigued, though, at general ASF numbers. So Konorak's got 27. Taffy sitting on 37. Kelly has 52. And Amygdala does have some. I can see one over here. He's got a pile of 31. So actually, all in all, Team 2 with more dominance in the air game. But wow, is anyone on Team 2 power locked? No. And suddenly, Team 2 are behind by 60 mass, something like that. They're up overall by about 12k, which isn't a huge difference for almost half an hour into the game in a 2v2, it has to be said. But Team 1 finally inching ahead, and that's impressive, especially when you consider they don't have full territorial control of the top left-hand corner yet. Amygdala still holding out, but he seems to have lost some ground force over here, working on a demolisher actually, but I humbly suggest that he doesn't need standoff tactics right now. He's going to need some base firepower to ward off potential attacks on the ground. Though there's only 2 bricks in there. Maybe he knows exactly what he's doing. He's bringing out this little group of units here, and he's got a couple of spearheads in the mix. So he could dish out some damage on these units here as long as they stay still. But of course, as soon as I say it, they get on the move. Demolisher's a long way from being done. Amygdala utilizing a lot of his resources elsewhere. And it's starting to look like Amygdala's winning this naval exchange bit by bit. It is, of course, much closer to his main base, his reinforcement point. Ouch, Neptune class. He needs to send that in. That would really shift the balance of power. But there's the nuke. Out from Kelly. Where's it going? And wherever it's going, have they got anti-nuke loaded? Well, it's heading up towards... Well, it's either going up towards Konorak's base up at the top left-hand corner, or it's going after the fleet over here. I think it might be going after the base. That really could change the dynamic up here at the top left. A couple of demolishers out already, bombarding these units, trying to soften them up. The nuke does sail over the top of the river, and it is going straight for this position up here. There are 4 T3 factories at risk, and they are all going to go pop. Maybe not. He has dropped that very... Why did he drop it all the way down there? That's some horrible positioning. Not sure what that was about. Took out 2 of the T3 factories. Was there a large force of units over here which have moved, I wonder? Interesting placement on that side of things. But Taffy has dropped back, leaving one vessel belonging to Konorak, who just didn't get the message, didn't get the memo. Reminds me of that oil rig, or sorry, not oil rig, oil tanker in Superman 3. Doesn't rely on coded messages from daft machines. It's going to do what the captain wants to do, only in this case it didn't work out. That's some old school movie trivia. If you're old enough to know what I'm talking about, I appreciate you greatly. Vipers on the ridge, bombarding this forward base, and I think Konorak might finally be about to end this threat. Shields have collapsed, bricks now entering the base. There's quite a number of bricks here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bricks. Some of them badly damaged. They are about to fall. How many T3 factories? Only 1 T3 factory. One of them's an HQ though, so that is a painful thing to lose. I was thinking this were more units moving in, but it's not. It's just engineers. We will drop back in just a second as we also examine what's happening on the other side of things. Kelly's just lost the perimeter monitoring station to a little Titan attack from Taffy that's come down the eastern approach down here. That's going to get wiped out, though, to T3 gunships and loyalists. I can't believe it. It so looked like this base was done for a minute there. Most of the defenses have been wiped out, it's true, but all the factories remain largely intact, and so do the mass points. Air superiority fighters tangle with one another, but in come the broadswords, who immediately get to work on one of the bouncers in the area. They deal with that, hopefully for Amygdala's sake. He can finish off those ASFs. There they go. 4 broadswords still operational. Will they be set on an attack command? There's some flak guarding the 2 factories up here. I'm not sure what he's got in the way. There is another one down here as well. Another Burstmaster. Might be tough to deal with what he's got. Group of bricks down here. I'm really impressed, actually, that Amygdala has managed to hold on to this. Konorak has just not funneled everything into dealing with this position, I think. Feels like he will get it eventually, bit by bit, as the game goes on. But doesn't want to hamstring himself, overspending, trying to deal with this situation. It would really concern me, though, the fact that we're 35 minutes in. Kelly has been sat on this bottom right-hand corner this whole time. There is a bit of walkie-walkie, naughty-naughty going on. That gets dealt with. But largely speaking, this has been under solid Kelly control throughout the game. And especially since Taffy, who's been sat up here for most of the early game with his fleet, couldn't break past this hairpin turn and has now been pushed all the way back. Does he have enough vessels to repel an inbound attack? Well, a Neptune in the mix could be a real game changer. This is all T2 units. Do we even have a shield boat in here? It doesn't look like it. That looks like in the background there, that might be a T3 vessel moving in. A Galaxy, perhaps. It is a Galaxy. Oh, and a Neptune as well. So we do have T3 vessels moving in to assist for Team 1. Will it be in time to save these naval yards? Although, to be honest...
launch detected.
No. Nothing's going to save those naval yards. Can those vessels escape the blast in time? Second nuke out from Kelly. I love it when that happens. You're halfway through mentioning something and it instantly changes with a strategic launch detective. He might catch a few vessels in the blast radius here. They're not moving out in great speed, but he's certainly going to tackle all of the naval yards. Ouch, that really stings. At least a couple of destroyers went pop in that explosion. And that just opens up more free riverway for Team 2 right now to continue pushing with this fleet. Look at this saucy little drop over here. Whole bunch of Lobos on the ground going after T2 mexes. Transport gets obliterated in one pass from those air superiority fighters. But now a second major ground attack, T3 ground attack from Konorak, trying once and for all to put this base to bed. And I think he might do it, barring some massive broadsword attack, which Amygdala, if he had the broadswords, could have pulled off, being as he has air control in this portion of the map. But barring anything like that, I think this is going to go down. Finally focusing down that T3 land factory HQ. Is that the only one? Yes, it is. So that's the end of all T3 ground tech until Amygdala Rebuilds a T3 land HQ somewhere else. Couple of bricks. Too chicken to get involved with the risky stuff on the ground. They're just going to sit on the ridge there and fire down. Ooh, and is that our first experimental? I think it might just be. It come out of Amygdala. There it is. Oh, and it's a Novax. How terribly brave of you, sir. He's going straight for another one. So, moving into the standoff phase of the game. And actually not a terrible idea, because this map design, it's so impeding. It makes sense to try and hit back with long-range weaponry if you can. Sort of an immediate return on investment. Torpedo bombers going after a destroyer as it happens, getting annihilated on their way in. They might manage to bag the destroyer. There it goes. They're going to lose all of those torp bombers in the process. Look at that Maginot line going down there for Taffy. All of the defences, please, in this little bottleneck. Thank you very much. Could do with some Tech 2 point defence in there. I'm sure he'll get to it at some point. Maybe even some shield coverage if he's feeling saucy a little bit later on. Why not? Whalers moving up now from Kelly. Could have done with those about 5 minutes ago, brother. You might have saved his base. But it wasn't to be, and now we have NGs moving in to harvest that base for Konarak. That's going to be a nice little mass boost for him. Is that the same group of Lobos from that drop we saw earlier? Getting caught out by a Bernie. It's coming for your taxes. 2 Lobos remain out of that, but that's a decent little run. That looks like 3 mechs is taken out from that attack. Konarak doing his level best to interdict these whalers, but he is sorely lacking the fighter coverage. But I tell you what, his teammate isn't. In comes Taffy with a veritable horde of wasps, chasing away the enemy wasps, gunning those down. He's desperate to take after those whalers. For the moment, Konarak's dealing with those. Would love to save his engineers if he can, but they are going to get absolutely roasted on a spit, and not in a good way. Kelly doesn't go steamrolling in with his own air superiority fighters. He knows his whalers are done. Just waiting for more to catch up. Has he missed an opportunity? He's going to cut down a few stragglers belonging to Konarak. But Taffy... it looked like Taffy was bugging out there. Well, I don't know if he should go in there. He wants maybe to get the benefit of fighting over friendly anti-air coverage, but there's not a great deal of that. And I actually think Kelly has superior numbers by some way. 111 Gemini fighters there for Kelly. Taffy... no! He did have more. 131. So Taffy postulating there about whether or not he should have gone in. Maybe he should have. Would have come out reasonably well. And now we have a Novax heading in the opposite direction, this time from Taffy. So the first Novax out from Amygdala has locked onto a fusion reactor over here. Has done a decent amount of damage to it already. Found one outside shield coverage. There it goes. Volatility explosion taking tons of build capacity with it. But a counter Novax moving in to dish out the pain as well. Lots of vulnerable reactors here. And look at this completely unprotected air grid and power grid. Interesting target choice there. The isolated unconnected reactor gets picked off first. Engineers over here hurriedly work on a shield gen. Can they get that up in play before that defense satellite, which should really be renamed attack satellite because virtually no one uses it defensively. Very, very occasionally. Then I suppose Best defense is a good offense, isn't it? That's what they say.
Strategic launch detected.
And nuke number 3, I believe, out of this silo down here, which has some 32 kills to its name. Not an amazing score so far. It was a questionable landing over here. Questionable target decision, but again, it's going towards the top left-hand corner. We'll see if this one dishes out more damage. Probably not. If it's coming too far north up here, we have an SMD that's loaded. So if it hits anywhere in here, or is targeted to hit anywhere in there, that's going to get shot down. Looks like it's heading in that direction. So indeed it is. There it goes. Slight targeting error there. Could have done with some more scouting. Look at this bank of clink hammers there. That's a real shame. That's a thing of beauty right there. Although,
strategic launch detected.
It's a little bit like the artillery centipede. Troubling sequel to those movies, I'm sure.
Strategic launch detected.
Another nuke inbound, going up towards Taffy's base. It's already had some trouble thanks to those Novak satellites, but this time it looks like the naval yards are going to come a bit of a cropper. In fact, the naval yards largely survived. The poor souls who were assisting them, all of the engineers, have been reduced to ionized radiation. Not much left there. Another nuke out. That's going to hit 4 T3 Mexes. Taffy putting out 397 mass per tick before that strike. Drops down to 289. That really hurts. That is a painful loss of mass for Team 1. Team 1, who is now down by some... I mean, it's hard to tell once you cross that 1,000 threshold, but they look like they're down by about somewhere in the region of 170 to 270 mass. That is not ideal. And in terms of total mass accrued, it's 1.53 million versus 1.48. But some long-range artillery now falling on Kelly's base. Where's that coming from? It's coming from over here, but it's already been identified as priority target number 1 for these Novaks, and with a failing power grid, they can't keep the shield coverage on. It gets hoovered up in one strike. Is the disruptor going to go down in this volley? Yes, it is. That is really painful. He looked like he had the perfect little installation there. He had shield coverage, but thanks to power problems, says, not enough power, and then a whole load of FUs. The air grid down here for air production and power grid for Kelly did get killed off by the Novak satellites from Taffy. Sorry we can't show you everything. That is the nature of the thing. But it is just Novak City right now. Lots and lots of centers going up. We're now working on center number 4 for Amygdala. And that becomes really difficult to repel when you get that many Novak satellites chomping at shield gens. It becomes really taxing trying to keep those out. But look at this. Now that Konorak is in full control of the top left-hand corner, he's starting to churn out T3 ground-based firepower at a reasonable rate. We've got a whole group of bricks led by a few bouncers here. He doesn't want to get those too separated. Definitely wants to keep them nearby the bricks. Okay, so another gunship horde turn up. Taffy absolutely determined to take out some of these Novak centers. Shield gens holding for the time being. Getting some assistance on the ground from these engineers sitting nearby. They're going to need to get more shield coverage up in play to ward off these attacks, and you can see that's the plan over here. Engineering drones hurriedly working on making that a reality. This bottom shield very close to failing, but a new one pops up, securing the area for just a little bit longer at least. But those bricks are moving in. The bouncers have been dealt with a little bit. We've got 3 more up here. I don't know if they were the same ones that were leading and have now dropped back, but these bricks now running into this patrol of broadswords over here, and there's so much damage on those gunships. They are just gonna chomp their way through those bricks like they're hitting T1 units. In come some whalers as well. In fact, a decent number of whalers from Kelly. That will be the end of this little short-lived attack. They did take out a mass point or two and some other units on the ground, but no more threat likely to materialize from that little push down the western approaches. Taffy thinking about going in with his fighters over here. Kelly says, "Wait for me!" Traversing the map with his ASF pile. But look at this massive brick push over at the eastern approach now from Kelly. In fact, we're going to have to keep an eye on these two different theatres. There is just too much going on right now. Minimap slightly in the way. Taffy goes in after the gunships. The piles of ASFs mingle. It looks like Taffy still has an advantage. Nothing coming after these ground forces over on the right screen for Kelly, who seem to have a bit of a free rein to move up towards these other secondary bases up here. A new experimental completes for Konarak, but look at that. Complete air dominance now handed over to Taffy and Team 1 as he annihilates the rest of those whalers. And of course, his ability to produce a new air force massively hampered after those Novak satellite attacks from Taffy wiped out that power grid and those air factories. A new Novak satellite system about to complete though. There it goes. Satellite about to launch. And that will be yet more headaches. Can he maintain the shield coverage? There's only 2 Novak satellites here and the number of shields are increasing, so it's entirely possible. Meanwhile over here, Taffy losing satellites. 1 Novak satellite at the back destroyed. Oh, strategic missile defense outside shield coverage. That targeted and obliterated, and then another Novak satellite down. Is that it falling out of the sky? Yep, look at that. Decent amounts of mass on these Novak satellites when they crash. 6,480, that's been scoopersoned a little bit. Oh, power outage. Luckily, power outage only happening after said Novak satellites have been dealt with. Another group of gunships, another set of broadswords from Amygdala brought out against the next group of bricks coming down here. Back up at the top right hand corner though. Shields have failed in Taffy's corner base. He's losing more satellites. Bricks in amongst the fusion reactors. They've picked off 1. But of course there are now 3 satellites above this pile of generators and air factories. I'd go so far as to say that's the end of this little base up here. No chance he's getting out of that. Very painful indeed. Vessels continue to fire one another. For such a central part of the map though, the river hasn't borne any real material strategic benefit to either side. They haven't been able to break through each other so far. That is a lot of battleships though in play for Taffy, who's had galaxies gifted over to him from Konarak, who's just, I'm assuming, pumping them out of these factories at the back here and then trading them over to his teammate. A bug under construction over here. That's interesting, especially since we've seen such a huge shift in air dominance over to Team 1. That could be crucial. Rebuilding of the disruptor that we saw getting taken out by Amygdala's satellites. That's going well. Up to about 65-70% complete. A new inbound nuke.
Strategic launch detected.
And another one coming out of these strategic missile submarines down here. That's going after, oh, the last of Taffy's naval yards. One of them survives and it's only a T2. But he has already obliterated Team 2's navy with his Galaxy-class battleships and those Neptune battlecruisers. And he can ground fire those subs down there to take those out. But look at this. Oh, I thought he had bricks left. Oh, he does have some. And he's got that Monkey Lord moving down the left-hand side in towards this rear base over here that houses all of these Novax satellites. These are the one tool Team 2 have right now that's wreaking havoc against Team 1's bases.
Strategic launch.
Top right-hand corner's gone. The main base of Taffy has been destroyed. He's lost his naval yards. Another nuke out down here from the strategic missile submarines. Is that going to take out the Disruptor just when it's completed again? No, it's not. 2 anti-nukes loaded in that silo. That nuke will be comfortably disposed of. Konorak's main base. Shields failing. But look at this. Monkey Lord just might as well walk through those shield gens, start firing at something. Oh, and a couple of bugs show up. Not just the one we saw earlier, 2. He spun out 2 bugs at the same time. What a wonderful change in circumstances for Team 1. This has been a massive turnaround. Look at the difference in mass output as well. Team 2 at 1.1k versus 724 mass per tick. But this air advantage, ever since they lost their ability to pump out ASFs, which they've subsequently rebuilt in a real solid fashion, but they're still way off the numbers needing to deal with these bugs. I think he's going to have to try and go in regardless. Taffy 52. Well, not as many there as I thought. Kelly with 90. That, oh, okay, so there's 2 different types in here, of course, because he's been gifted some by Konorak. Surely that's what's going on there. It must be. Yeah, 51. Oh no, 73 of these are out of fuel. So that's going to drastically reduce their combat effectiveness. 1 bug dealt with. Oh, can they get the second one? If they can, maybe this other Monkey Lord can stop the one that's moving up down here for Konorak. That second bug on 31,000 hit points, still alive and still pummeling away at that Monkey Lord. And he doesn't manage to deal with it. So 1 Soul Ripper, 1 Monkey Lord still alive for Konorak. We have another Monkey Lord moving out for Kelly from that main base that's still operational. In fact, both of the main bases are still relatively intact, but we're receiving long-range fire now from that Disruptor. Amygdala says, well played. A nuke does land to take out the Disruptor. Didn't get a chance to see how they dealt with the strategic missile defense, but is that a Control K? Yes, it is. Amygdala bowing out. I think he knows how this is going to go. Soul Ripper survives another attack. 5,000 hit points. Monkey Lord shedding HP. Oh, it's going to survive. Samfire from the main base takes down the Soul Ripper. The Monkey Lord's going to get inside shield coverage with some 4,000 hit points intact. But there's another very healthy Monkey Lord inbound. 5-starred with 99 kills to its name from Konorak. The one that's just strolled through the Novax base over here. I don't think he's going to be able to keep it out. Down goes the defending Monkey Lord. Another one is under construction over here. It's building up very, very quickly indeed. But all of that build capacity is about to get wiped. In fact, he's going to focus down the Monkey Lord first, maybe. Switches up to the ion reactor to deal with some of the build capacity around it. And I think that's game. That's got to be game. Battleships still moving up for Taffy. Kelly was an interesting game, certainly worthy of Guile, I agree. And there's the Control K over there down in the bottom corner, or at the bottom of the screen rather. Wow, 58 minutes, not quite an hour, but a very unusual 2v2 thanks to a very unusual map, I think it's fair to say. Crazy, crazy play. Definitely looked in the mid-game there like Team 2 might be coming out on top of things. The Novak's play up in the top right-hand corner was getting work done. Taffy had virtually nothing left in terms of main base coverage. We even actually had some bricks moving up from Kelly, but it wasn't enough. That the fact that the first Novak satellites took care of the air production facilities, which were largely or completely unshielded at the time, it was like a sitting duck, meant that Taffy got too much of an ASF lead, was able to hold on to it, and that allowed for that push down the left-hand side continually with bricks of first, of course, but then with the Monkey Lord and the dual Soul Ripper action, they just couldn't contend with that, and that was the end of that. I hope you enjoyed it, guys. Don't forget, if you feel so inclined, a mere $1 a month for the Patreon. Extra content there lying in wait for you if you haven't seen it. I have no plans to change the price at any time in the future either. I want to make sure it's as accessible as possible to as many different people, so it's going to stay at $1. I hope you consider it if you don't already, and for those that do, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and you. But I appreciate all of you for giving me your time today. Do smash that like button, hit subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and leave a comment down below what you thought about the game. Always happy to hear what you think. But until next time, guys, stay well and stay safe. This is Guile, signing out.